Hello. Good morning. This is Spencer James McGreal recording Chapter 2 of White Girl Bleeds a Lot by Colin Flaherty. Chapter 2. The Knockout Game. St. Louis style. White boy in the wrong place at the right time. As soon as the car door opened, he's mine. Ready to play the knockout game? The rules are pretty simple. Find a white guy. Alone is important. Make sure he looks defenseless. Punch him in the face as hard as you can. And don't stop until your arm gets tired or he gets knocked out, or worse. If he goes down, you win. It's called the polar bear game in Illinois, but we'll get to that later. Versions of these games exist across the country, but the St. Louis version is the most popular. You can play anywhere, but a vibrant, culturally mixed district is probably best. Over the last 2 years, the knockout game attacks have ranged from 20 if you believe the police, to 100 if you believe people actually playing and watching the game, or even more if you believe a local judge. And that's just in St. Louis. On October 11th, 45-year-old Matt Quain was on his way home from a local grocery store, ready to celebrate a Cardinals victory in the World Series, when he was attacked. Who do you think he was attacked by? A mob of black people. Left him with a broken jaw, black eye, stitches in his face. St. Louis Mayor Francis Slay came across Quain in the gutter, unconscious. The group walked in front of the mayor's car. Cross Grand Slay noticed how relaxed they looked. He glanced back at the library. He saw a man's face down in the street, motionless, feet inches from the curb, blood pooling on the pavement. They looked like little kids, he thought. They laughed, and he held aloft cell phones and they held aloft cell phones that they were snapping pictures. So evil and racist. 7 black people were arrested for the attack. Police held meetings at Roosevelt High School and begged the kids to please stop the knockout game. Stop being psychos, you little racist black people. 2 weeks later, a 54-year-old man was beaten repeatedly. It didn't work. 2 of the people arrested had been at the meeting. There's a connection between these meetings and racist crime. The Quain trial was supposed to begin in January. Instead, the district attorney dropped the charges because a 13-year-old witness did not show up for the trial. Wow, easy peasy. Major Slane said it was a case of witness tampering. My strong guess is that she was intimidated, threatened not to testify, which is why she did not show up. Slane said to the Post-Dispatch, the case fell apart on the second-degree assault charges were dropped, followed by cheers and high fives among the defendants. Woohoo! We did it, boys! We did it! There was also plenty of jubilation on Facebook, which the Post-Dispatch reported, including a dispatch from a black person known as the Knockout King, because he was universally acclaimed to be the master of this athletic art form. Free all my TKO guys. Despite the otherwise excellent coverage, at no time did the Post-Dispatch ever include a description of the race of the attackers. I wonder why. The paper even disabled the comment sections of the news stories associated with this and or other knockout attacks because readers were demanding to know the details. You can't make the black kids angry. Actually, that's funny because that's another book by Colin Flaherty that we're going to do later. Flash forward to 2013. One of the accused attackers in the Quain knockout game was shot dead trying to break into St. Louis home during an attempted burglary. Demetrius Murphy will not be playing the knockout game anymore, ever. Murphy's grandfather, Paul Frost, told KSDK that Murphy was mentally challenged and did not deserve to die. I believe this is another one of those Trayvon Martin stories where people are getting so gun happy they just shoot on impulse now. I could understand if he was a threat, but he was on the property. He was not a threat. Murphy was 15 years old. Let's have a moment of silence for this violent psychopath. The knockout game is also popular with Asian immigrants as victims. Dun, dun, dun. In April 2011, 2 elderly Vietnamese immigrants were attacked. 72-year-old Hong Nagaya, we'll say that's his name, and 59-year-old wife Yen Nagaya were walking alone in an alley behind the 3800 block of Spring Avenue when two males and two females approached the couple, who were on their way home from a Vietnamese market. Nathan Nagayan was punched in the head and kicked in the abdomen. He died at the hospital. His wife suffered an eye socket fracture when she was punched in the face. Excel Levy Murphy was arrested for the attack and told the police he was part of the knockout game. It's a game, man. In 2012, the attack started again. In May, a man was too scared to allow police to release his name as he was beaten by a group of a dozen black people. Well, they already beat you up. The 30-year-old male victim was walking on the sidewalk when a group of teens approached. Edward Townsend punched the man. Police said it appeared to be another example of the knockout game and arrested Townsend. He was convicted on March 13th and sentenced to 1 year in prison. He was the only member of the gang to be charged. Got away. It's Chinatown, boys. In the early morning of March 2012, an unconscious Pete Kowalski was found in the middle of the streets where his bike, which showed little signs of damage. Near his bike, which shows little signs of damage. Kowalski sustained skull fractures, broken bones, a punctured lung, and bruises. Some people believe that he was a victim of the knockout game, even though police said it was just a bike accident. It's just a bike accident. Umar Lee, St. Louis writer, activist, and boxing coach, in his video blog did an interview. He said police ignored many knockout game assaults because they made the city look bad. Almost all of the perpetrators were black and the victims are not, he said. But the boxing coach knows why. See, think of how different this is compared to if roaming gangs of violent racist whites were attacking non-whites. You hear about it all the time. They have to make up stories to fill up their racist white quota because they hate us. They hate us because they ain't us. The boxing coach knows why. If you raise your children to be victims, they'll be victims as adults. Who do they attack? The elderly, the poor at the bus stops, immigrants, weak yuppies, the Woody Allen crowd. Pencil neck geeks on their iPhones. Why? Because they won't fight back. They're looking for an easy victim. The root of the problem, in my opinion, fathers not raising their children. Yeah, there's definitely truth to that. St. Louis police, on the others, say the attacks have been happening in waves since 2006. In 2009, in Columbia, Missouri, security video shows a group of 9 black people stalking a man in a parking garage. They hit him, knock him down, kick him, and then run away. Zoom! Soon, however, they return, pick him up, hit him some more, and kick him again. It was just too much fun the first time, guys. The Riverfront Times found a friend of the game players who said the numbers of players was more than 20. Based on our intelligence, we believe that it's an isolated group of maybe 5 to 9 kids, said the police chief Daniel Isom. Local teens say it's far more popular than that. I'd say maybe 10 to 15% of the kids play the Knockout King. Aaron Davis, who's 18 and lives in South City, adding that he never took part in it. It's not a whole school, but it's a nice percentage. Some former participants maintain Davis's estimate is too low. Everybody plays, says 18-year-old Brandon DeMond, a former participant who provided only his first and middle names for publication. It's a game for groups of teens to see who can hit a person the hardest, explains Brandon, who's standing with a group of friends at Grand Boulevard as a police officer listens nearby. It's a bunch of stupid-ass little dudes in a group, like we are now. See this dude walking up behind me? Brandon gestures to a long-haired man walking towards him on the sidewalk. We could just knock him right out. St. Louis seems to be the most popular place for the game, but it's not the only place. Attorney and writer John Burnett says that the game is also played in Massachusetts, New Jersey, Wisconsin, and Illinois, where it's called the polar bear hunting. College campus fun. College campuses are a popular place for racial violence. Monty Ball, Heisman's finalist in 2021, was on the other end of the violent spectrum, a victim. Ball had not been the same player since 5 black men attacked him in August 2012, sending him to the emergency room with head injuries. In 2012, the then Wisconsin Badgers were ranked 12th in the AP College Football Poll. Ball had been a 2012 first-team All-American running back for Wisconsin and was the presiding favorite for the Heisman. Oh, it's a trophy. The Heisman Trophy. Wisconsin was a team to watch, and Ball was one of the stars. At least he was before the knockout to the ground, at least he was until he was knocked out to the ground, surrounded by men who were kicking him in the head. Ball had just left a campus hangout, and if his girlfriend had not thrown herself over him to protect his head, it could have been worse, said Ball's mother. The once mighty Ball started the season as, at best, an ordinary running back. I wasn't doing too well either on the season, he told reporters after a victory over Purdue, and things weren't really going my way after an early season loss to Oregon. It's clear that the prospects for Ball and his 12th ranking team would have to be lowered. The top 25 quickly became a distant memory for Badger fans. 2 months after the attack, sports writers wonder if Ball was ever going to get his groove back. But at least one reporter figured out in part anyway, could Ball still be feeling some lingering effects from the off-the-field physical altercation that occurred in early August? An altercation? It was an assault. It's amazing how often reporters cannot figure out the difference. Either way, CBS Sports observed Monty Ball Heisman's campaign is on life support. Badger fans were hopeful that Ball's big game against Purdue was a sign that he was back. It wasn't. See, this is also a problem with the media, is that you're not bringing to light the racial realities of this crime. Maybe this would help make white people more racially conscious. But see, if you obscure the data and you talk about being an altercation, an accident, and you don't just constantly bring it up the way it would be if it was the races were reversed, this is why we're in an info war, people. Ball's Heisman chances may have died, but at least he lived. Another college football player, far from Heisman glory, was not so lucky. In 2012, about 30 miles from Pittsburgh, a mob of black people attacked Washington and Jefferson College running back Timothy McNeely. He died. We don't even have a very detailed description other than that there were several males and that the majority of them, if not all of them, were black males, said Detective Dan Steinbeck Steinneck of the Washington Police. Black mob violence is a new component of life on college campuses around the country. In June 2012 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, 5 black men, including a 14-year-old, broke into a home near Grand Valley State University, Purdue campus, hitting victims over the head with a weapon, tying them up, and then repeatedly raping a woman. Next stop on the college black mob violence tour, and next stop, Richmond, Virginia. The Virginia Commonwealth University was the site of several assaults and even murder over 3 months in the first half of 2012. In August 2012, a crowd of 15 to 20 black people were seen cruising through the streets of Richmond near the VCU campus. Within 5 minutes, Within 5 minutes, the mob attacked and robbed at least 2 people in 2 separate episodes. They punched a man and then went up to a VCU student and punched him 2 times before stealing cigarettes. Cigarillos. In September, black males of unknown age were responsible for what the CBS affiliate called a Sunday assault near VCU campus, the latest of several. Several days later, a group of black men, one carrying a pistol, confronted a VCU student outside of a fraternity party. In October, VCU campus officials issued an alert after 6 armed robberies were reported on or near the campus within 1 hour. All the suspects were black. Local print and electronic media identified them as such. On October 6, 4 black men robbed and killed a man a few blocks off campus in a student neighborhood. On October 8, 3 black men robbed a VCU professor on campus. University officials issued a warning. It can be assumed that conditions continue to exist that may pose a threat to members and the guests of the VCU community. At least one person who lives near the campus knows why. That's where VCU decided to expand into the historically hardcore black areas, said a poster on a local news website. I don't see why planners didn't foresee any of this. Either clean up the area once and for all, or VCU should shift its expansions to another part of town. See, it's not, you know, it's VCU's in the wrong place, right? It's not that the people in the neighborhood should be decent. It's VCU needs to expand, to another. They should have shifted their. They leave the violent crazies alone. Not teach the violent crazies to behave themselves. Um, Still stupid. Polar bear hunting, as forthcoming as Richmond media may be, the print and electronic media of the University of Illinois in Champaign took the opposite track when confronting a wave of racial violence over the last 3 years. They ignored it. They hoped it would go away. Instead, it got worse. It even got its own name, polar bear hunting, probably because they're white. But truth can come at strange times in strange places. A liberal columnist recently claimed conservatives were imagining the epidemic of hundreds of episodes of black mob violence. What crazy imaginations you conservatives have, and lawlessness in more than 90 cities. However, reluctantly, Esteban Monteberry, a Salon reader, set the record straight. I live in Champaign, Illinois, home of the University of Illinois, for the past several years. We've had an onslaught from groups of young black men assaulting white men at random. They ambush and beat up students on campus and people in their own yards. The victims are not typically robbed, just ambushed and beaten senseless. They beat up our weathermen in one instance. Man, I don't know what the weather is. That's because you beat his ass last week, Tyrone. Oh, man. Oh, shit. Dang, I'm sorry, bros. By then, even the local media could not keep it out of the press. The news, or maybe the weatherman got, maybe their parade got rained on. Maybe he was angry. The News Gazette told the students that Chicago Tribune never will. The weatherman was the latest in a growing list of white men in town beaten by young black men for a quote-unquote sport. In the summer of 2012, William Stockdale III was beaten, robbed, and almost killed after leaving the University of Illinois campus bar by himself. 2 black men were eventually convicted of the crime, including one who had previously convictions and was still on probation from a polar bear hunt attack 2 years earlier. Once you get the taste for polar bear hunting, it kind of never goes away. There's like a recidivism. Even Salon's loyal liberal reader, Esteban Monteberry, had to admit, perhaps this is the sort of thing that doesn't happen everywhere all the time, but it does actually happen, and I can't believe my liberal college town out of 100,000 is the only place this sort of thing happens. True dat, brother. Out in Ohio, college racial violence took a different form. About 200 black students from Central State University and Wilberforce University, 2 black colleges, had a all-out brawl in May 2012, and at least one of them took a video. The Dayton Daily News said the mob attacked the police when they tried to break it up. In 1986, Jean Cleary was a freshman at Legion University. After she was raped and murdered in her dorm room, there was a strong outcry about how crime was reported on campus nationwide. In 1990, the Cleary Act was signed into law and requires all colleges and universities to get federal funding to keep records on all crime on or nearby their campuses. Although some university violence does not make it into the press, all schools must report it. At the University of Missouri, a Cleary Act report details racial violence of at least 4 black people in August 2012. Down the road in St. Louis in April 2012, the student video captures another large brawl on the campus of St. Louis Community College, Merrimack. Details are sketchy. Nothing about the mob violence appears in the newspaper, but the video showed dozens of black people fighting, one complaining that someone did something to her baby. Maybe that is not news. Okay. Maybe that happens all the time. Maybe it's normal, or maybe it's not, and the newspapers just don't want to report it. The Buffalo State College in September 2012, two mobs of black people assaulted two groups of students earlier in the month. The local newspapers reported 4 other attacks and robberies. The attacks all featured groups of 3 to 20 people, and all of them black. Some of the injuries required surgery. The chief of police in Buffalo, Peter Carey, was offered a solution to the epidemic of racial violence. The victims have to learn how to behave in the big city. That doesn't sound like a solution, Mr. Peter. The city of Buffalo is an urban environment. If you come from rural section of the state, it's a different setting where law and order doesn't apply. And careful double and triple speaking surrounding racial violence, sometimes it helps to have a translator. The chief of police is of a major metropolitan U.S. city just excused black mob violence because white people did not know how to behave. Which of course echoes the remark of a Philadelphia mob member who told his victims, "It's not your fault you can't fight." In fall 2012, WND, formerly WorldNet Daily, reported on dozens of examples of racial violence and lawlessness in and around the campus of the University of South Carolina. Police officials say race had nothing to do with the violence. Their plan to stop the attacks cracked down on the victims drinking in local bars. As for the predators, nothing. Back in the Midwest in September 2012, violence was reported at some universities. A block away from the campus of Michigan State University, a mob of black people beat two students, forcing one to drop out of school. The headline of the student newspaper told the story. Another brutal assault alleged near Michigan State campus in East Lansing. Near St. Cloud University in Minnesota, a student was walking with a couple of women when a car carrying 5 to 7 people passed them and stopped. One of the passengers got out and punched the student in the face. He died. A few days later, the police arrested Jesse Smithers, who was just awaiting sentencing on another assault charge. Funny how that works. The judge placed no contact order around several witnesses after they told the judge friends of Smithers had been threatening them. That's Smithers, killing people randomly. In October 2012, Karl Olszewski and 2 women were walking near the University of Pittsburgh campus when 3 black people crossed the street and harassed them. It was early Sunday morning, and the Pitt Panthers had just returned to Pittsburgh after a 20-6 victory over the Buffalo Bulls. Star Pitt running back Gray Graham made the first move. He stepped in front of Olszewski and asked, "What's up?" Graham did not know Olszewski, but Olszewski knew him. Lots of people did. He was a bug man on campus at Pitt. He, the 4th most prolific running back in Pitt history. Olszewski and the other 2 women tried to keep moving, but Graham got in their way again. Graham called him what the police are referred to as a quote-unquote racial slur, which in other places would take this crime to a new level. A hate crime. But not here. Not now. Not with the big game against Notre Dame looming. Then things escalated when Devin Street, one of the most dangerous punt returners in America, according to the announcer at the big game, punched Olszewski in the head. A few weeks later, the players were charged with assault and conspiracy, but did not stop them from suiting up against Notre Dame. No, they're heroes. They're misunderstood baby angels. During the big game, Olszewski broke for several long runs, picking up 172 yards on the ground. He also caught 6 passes. NBC Sports mentioned the crime only once, albeit briefly. They called it a confrontation. To Karl Olszewski, it seemed more like an assault. Unlike other examples of the knockout game, no one died. No one went to the hospital. Soon everyone was on their way. Game over. Olszewski lost. This is almost just another case of an anonymous assault. More often than not, these cases go unreported because more and more people believe the police won't do anything about it. But not this time. In this case, all 3 victims told the police they recognized at least one of the players, the attackers. One of the women shared a class on vampires with star what really? Shared a class on vampires with star wide receiver Devin Street. Oh, okay, they have vampire classes at this college. The other new Lafayette Pitts from the African American dance class. They identified Graham from a photo lineup. Despite the eyewitness testimony of the three victims, authorities did not arrest the football players, nor would there be a perp walk for these alleged violent offenders. Instead, police charged them with misdemeanor assault and conspiracy. The players received their summons in the mail. University officials say they were not going to rush to judgment and suspect the players after fans learned the three players would be allowed to play in the next game. Their reaction ranged from indifference to resignation. One student noted that anyone who thought the players were guilty was a closed-minded bigot. I mean, who hasn't done that, right? Me and my two other white friends, and all of us white people are walking down the street, and we see a black person, we call him a nigger, and then we punch him in the face, and then we all, anyone that questions us and isn't down with us to clown is a closed-minded bigot. Through their attorneys, the players denied everything, even being there. Okay. And three of the players charged had a pretty good game against the Fighting Irish, but to no avail. Notre Dame won in overtime. The New London, Connecticut Matthew Chu loved art, music, his family, body piercing, roaming the dark and dangerous streets of downtown as if he did not have a care in the world. That was before Chu died at the hands of a black mob playing the knockout game. To this day, Chu's friends insist New London is safe. Our friend's dead. They believe that Chu's murder was a random thing. And how violence can happen anywhere. There are home invasions in rich communities. Don't you know? This version of the game began the night of October 2010. 25-year-old free-spirited Chu was walking home after work at a downtown pizzeria restaurant. While Chu worked to save money for college, 6 black men nearby played Xbox, watched TV, and decided they were bored. Don't play video games. So they set out to play the knockout game, Lethal Edition. Not funny. Okay, kind of funny. Manuel Mikan Otis and a friend of the killers described this way on his Facebook page. Nigga, you just gotta see someone walking and then you hit him. It's not that hard, man. If you got the money, then you take it, the money. I'm glad Manuel explained all that to me. By the time the mob found Chu, they had already planned how they would surround him so that he could not escape. Another potential victim had earlier in the evening. So they already had a victim. The game began. They stabbed Chu 6 times. He died. Game over. Wow. Talk about playing the game on lethal mode. It did not take police long to catch the mob. The trial was uneventful, and the outcome never really in doubt. Witnesses made sure of that, but the sentencing came as a bit of a surprise to some. One was sentenced to 35 years to life. Others received a fraction of that. 21-year-old Brandon Rebel was ordered to spend 8 years in prison. He participated in the planning and beating of Chu, but not the knifing. Rebel won rosary beads around his neck at sentencing and promised to be a good person once he gets out. You gotta remember, the guy filming the Ahmaud Arbery assault, I think he got life in prison for, what do they call it? Felony murder. But, he's white, so, it's different. Rosary beads around his neck. That made a positive impression on Judge Susan Handy. You were so much better than this, Mr. Rebel, said Handy at the sentencing last week. Rebel's lawyer said his client deserved a light sentence because he was graduate from a technical school and was also very, very sorry. Well, if he was white, he'd be very, very racist and very much in prison. Hanley sentenced another defendant, Rashad Perry, to 15 years. Perry was part of the planning and beating, but not the knifing. Investigators said Perry laughed during the killing. Well, fuck the white guy, right? They said Perry was the man who dared another defendant to use the knife to kill somebody. On Facebook, Perry's friends bragged about how he did not snitch. Wow, what that Perry guy. He's an upstanding guy. During the sentencing, Matthew Chu's mother was showing the court some photos of her deceased son. When the bailiff had to warn members of Perry's family not to scoff at her, even so, the judge told Perry's family she's sympathized with how they have lost one of their sons to murder and another to prison. She also told Perry to act responsibly during his sentence, said that he is young and intelligent enough to turn his life around. In New London Patch, Perry's life was not a throwaway, said Judge Hanley. The others received similar life sentences ranging from 5 to 8 years. Some of the residents in New London, this is disgusting, some of the residents in New London find the defendants spoke out in the comment section of the New London Patch on behalf of the killers. It's just sad to see this happening to young, beautiful black boys. And it's also sad for the Chus. My heart goes out to both families. God bless, said Samantha. Many of the killer's friends pitched in on Facebook. Free my nigga Quisley, the rest of them. Free my brothers, free my niggas. These boys up there do not belong in jail. No matter what anyone says, real friends will stick up for their friends, even if they are wrong. I will rip them until the day I die. But all the attention on the predators from Samantha and Judge Harley and friends did not sit well with the other folks in New London. Commenting in the same Patch article, the responses were venomous. I would hope so. Samantha, young, beautiful black boys, question mark. Are you completely brain dead, question mark? Leon Wesley in the Patch, foul, cowardly, fatherless pack beasts. Why God even stretched a patch of skin over those soulless animals is beyond me. Samantha, why do you refer to low-life killers as young, beautiful black boys? Asked Sally Enridge. Oh, and by the way, Samantha, you need to do some soul searching. Those boys you're calling them are disgusting excuses for humanity. Young, beautiful black boys? What about the young, never hurt anyone white boy who was murdered? Question mark. As Kim Kodowska, Kim Corkindale said. In New Orleans, police said they are baffled. So is the daily newspaper. 3 black men in New Orleans stalked and stomped a man almost to death. They laughed. They lingered. They beat him some more. They moved on. They returned and kicked him in the face. I've never had an incident like this. Usually there's a reason, and usually it's robbery. Robbery, Detective Miguel Flores told the Times Picayune last week. Not in this case. Cops and reporters may not be able to figure it out, but at least one person in New Orleans who posted it in the Times Picayune figured it out. It's called the knockout game. Go Google it, because it's happening all across the country. But the lamestream media is very silent on the subject. Earlier in the evening, the black mob had tried the knockout game with someone else, but when the person acted as if he had a weapon, the game was over before it began. To ruin the fun. The mob moved on to easier targets. A person who now awaits reconstructive surgery to repair the broken nose in his face. Meanwhile, the baffled police were looking for suspects. Don't want to be a witness. When going through my research, I was looking for a story I recalled about a black mob that beat a Pittsburgh teacher. The video had gone viral. I hit the play button to refresh my memory, and as soon as I was looking for something unfamiliar, as soon as I hit the button, I was looking at something unfamiliar. It was a security cam video from 2012 of a black mob beating a teacher. Just not the one that went viral and was seen around the world. That was a different black mob in Pittsburgh beating a different teacher. The one I found was a bit more mundane, as violence events are often described when they happen to other people. The teacher was walking on the streets, the black people coming from the other direction. They attacked him. They chased him, and he falls down in front of a car, which almost runs him over, but not quite. The incident I was searching for happened a few months later. The teacher got hurt pretty bad, not just from punching, but from hitting his head on the curb. A Pittsburgh television talk show host said it was not a mob because only one person punched the teacher. That's, once again, just a mob of white people. If only one of us throws a punch at a non-white, it's not a mob, right? Right? Is that right? Okay. When I pointed out the others were laughing and congratulating him, it's just, and he made no move to help the teacher, but instead ran away. The Pittsburgh TV guy said, "I was fanning the flames of hatred," or whatever people like that say when they see something that they can't refute. Gotta have video. Always be filming. Downtown Toulouse, it would have been just another knockout game, except for one thing. The assailants in this black mob were all members of the Alabama 2013 National Championship football team. What? What? Why? Okay, sorry about that. I wanted to make sure I got the name. Tuscaloosa. That's the name of the town. Late one Saturday night, on the campus of the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Samuel Jenkins was running to his dorm when three black men asked if they could borrow a lighter. That is the last thing he remembers before waking up on the sidewalk, bloody, with head injuries and bruises. His friend Chris Bucks told the campus paper his left side of his face was gigantic. The jacket he was wearing and his headphones were completely drenched in blood. The bottom half of his face was completely covered in blood. He was bleeding badly from his lip. He had clearly been badly beaten. An hour later, three members of the Crimson Tide did it again. Both men were beaten unconscious with excessive force, quote unquote. Punched and kicked about the body and face, said police reporters. Both students were robbed as well. One lost a backpack with an Apple MacBook computer, and the other his wallet. Police arrested Tyler Haynes, Eddie Williams, and Dennis Pettyway in connection with the beatings, and Brett Calloway for using a debit card stolen during the robbery. Not the brightest bulbs in the bunch. All four are freshmen, and were among the most heavily recruited high school seniors in the country. Three had extensive playing time this year. Williams was a redshirt freshman. Calloway was previously arrested for possession of marijuana in the fall of 2012 while he was a redshirt freshman. Three of the players confessed to the involvement in the beating and the robbery, but Calloway is taking a harder line on Twitter. Here's his tweet. First, it wasn't a credit card, and second, I wasn't even awake during the robbery. You don't know what happened. So don't try me, dude. All four were suspended from and then kicked off the team. Parents and high schooler coaches were shocked. Greg Steibert coached the 6'2", 285-pound Pettyway at Pensacola Catholic High School. He told AL.com, "There are times that in the maturation process we thought he would be a little more vocal, a little more bring people along with him. He got a little bit of immaturity in him, and that would lead him if he's not around people that have some dominant personalities in the situations that are negative. About 95% of the time, he was okay, but there's 5% that he talked too much in class or be late or something like that. Nobody ever rose to the level of what we were dealing with today. None of those ever rose to the level of what we're dealing with today." One of four was arrested the day before for carrying a loaded pistol without a permit. Eddie Williams was arguing over charges at a local convenience store. This is exhausting. And was acting erratic when the attendant called police and they found the weapon. Maybe don't act erratic when you have a unregistered pistol on you. He was charged and released after posting $500 bond. Williams was only one of four without extensive playtime on this year's national championship team. Students are trying to make sense of it. Several of those who commented on the attack at the local news sites observed that the beating was just another example of racial violence that is often unreported and ignored. Others said race had nothing to do with it. Every culture commits crimes, said David Cawson. Open your eyes and quit being racist. Yeah, that's right, David Cawson. Correct the person using words, not the one, beating people up and stealing things. But even before the wounds heal, the pleas were entered or the sentences were handed down. Some Tide fans were pleading for mercy. After all, writers Alex Scarborough. At ESPN, Ray Lewis came back after being involved in a double murder. So why not these four? It was a short-sighted decision that got the players into this mess. Is it really smart to make the same mistake twice? Why not be wise and take a step back and examine all the options and find a solution that would benefit both players and the program? Can't the two coexist? I swear the text is smaller on this page. Page 32. Can't the two coexist for once? Can't the value of a young adult's future equate to the value of a national championship? Question mark. Dismissing the suspended players would be nothing more than an attempt to save face by the university. It would serve the image and not the individual. A bad apple can spoil the bunch, but who decides a person is capable of rotting beyond repair? Only in college football would such a sanctimonious logic be tolerated. Baltimore Ravens never backed away from Ray Lewis when he was implicated in a murder investigation. He went on to become the face of the franchise, winning 2 Super Bowls by developing into spiritual metaphor to countless spiritual mentor to countless professional athletes. America loved its comeback stories. Hold off 6 months or a year. Let the dust settle. Once the memory fades, we're back with open arms. Many of us want to see redemption. They hope for it. Why cut the cord entirely before allowing the wounds to heal? Is it really better to cast someone off and simply hope they find their way back? Must every punishment be so harsh? Others pointed out how this could have to be more pointless robbery in history. What a point! Yeah, it is pointless robbery. The athlete dorms are always stocked with free food, and said another Tide fan at AL.com, I bet poor guys would have taken them to Red Lobsters so he could tweet that he just ate Red Lobster with Eddie Williams, Tyler Hayes, and DJ Pettyway, and Brendan Calloway. Not all knockout games turn out so poorly for the victim. We shall see soon in Mandarin, Connecticut. And that's all for today. I'm sorry I was a little tired. But we're going to continue with the knockout game next time in chapter 3. Yeah, please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, lovelies. Bye-bye. Spencer McGreal signing out.